Hi everyone. Can everyone hear me? All right. So usually I start my presentations with explaining who I am. In most presentations I say stuff like, yeah, hi, I'm that guy that stalks you in February because you didn't meet your deadline. But okay, this is a new group of people. Most people don't know me. So my name is Matthew. I work at the Flemish Audiovisual Fund as head of research. So every day I work with data, numbers, statistics. I like to stalk people to collect their information, their data, all GDPR proof, of course. But I do quite a lot at FAF, and I love it so much that I work in evenings and weekends and whenever I have time. And my partner hates me, so he even joins me at work now, so he can see me. And sorry, I'm rambling. All right. So if you don't know VAF, the Flemish Audiovisual Fund is actually a public body. We are powered by the Flemish government. We support film series, games, and podcasts from conception until release. We also do promotion. These are a few of our recent and upcoming Flemish games that received a grant of VAF. Some of these are playable at the showcase, actually, so please have a look, try them, they are great. So every year, we, and when I say we, I mean I, do a survey on the Flemish game sector. We do this since 2022. We survey every video game developer that actually received a grant from VAF. So in 2024, this was 78 studios that participated in our survey. And if we look at the total number of video game development companies in Flanders and Brussels, then that is about 80% of those studios. We survey them on company data, financial results, game information, that kind of stuff. The thing is, yeah, I say 80%, the definition of gaming studios is not set in stone. Some have multiple roles, some have many other activities. There are 136 game companies in Flanders and Brussels. So yeah, I think there are 98 companies doing specifically game development in Flanders and Brussels. So another notice, in the past we only contacted the studios that received a production grant, so to actually create the video game. Now, for this year, we have expanded to 78 studios that also receive prototyping funding. So when I need to compare the results of last year, which were 48 studios, and this year, which was 78, I do separate calculations. I take that into account when I have my conclusions. So let's dive in. First, the releases in 2024. Flemish games. There were 14 new full releases. Usually when I talk to people, there are also people who know film and TV series and podcasts. I need to explain what a full release is and an early access. I don't need to do that here. I'm very happy. So 14 full releases. 3 of them were funded by VAF. Also 5 were actually released by video game companies that received funding from us in the past and didn't need the funding anymore for the new game. So that's progress, that's good, that's growth. So that's already good news. So 11 pre-releases, those are prototypes, demos, early access releases. And 11 of those were released in 2024, 7 with a VAF grant, 11 were alumni, which is also good news. Then 2 games were released on additional platforms. With additional platforms, we mean games that have been ported from one platform to another, and the original platform wasn't released in the same year. So that's a re-release in an additional platform. I need to explain everything to politicians, so that's not always easy to do that. Sometimes you metaphors like a box of cookies, and we have a new flavor or a new store. And then there were no expansions. Okay, that happens. Last year, also not, but okay, that's fine. Let's look at the revenue in 2024. So in last year, there were 42 games that received VAF funding in the last 12 years that had some form of activity. So that can be turnover, that can be a download, that can be a login on a web platform, for example. And those 42 video games generated 10 million euros in turnover, which is good news. If we look at the studios themselves, the 78 studios, they generate 22 million euros of turnover. We also asked everyone, do you work for hire? What's the amount of turnover you generate there on that end? And that is just not 20%. 19.98% of the turnover came from work for hire, which is good news. And if we look at all these studios in Flanders and Brussels, they generate 65 million euros of turnover. Now let's compare 2023 to 2024. And we do this by looking at all the studios that have participated in our surveys of both 23 and 24, so we can detect if there was any growth. And yes, 4% more employees. Good news. And even they were more, plus 13% full-time equivalents. That's good news. There's actually growth. The company revenue, the turnover, plus 19%. Amazing. And they worked less for hire, minus 4.2 points, which is also great news. There's not always great news. Spoiler alert. If we look at all the studios, all 78, then there are 546 employees in the game development studios, 369 full-time equivalents. They generated 22.1 million revenue and 19.98% work for hire. Those final figures I already gave to you. In Flanders and Brussels, the number of FTEs in the game sector was 650 for 2023. We don't have the full figure yet, so this survey represents 84%. Who are they, the game developers? So we asked every studio to send in some data on how much people work permanently for a company, how much are freelancers, how many are interns. So if we compare 23 with 24, actually the permanent hires stayed the same. The percentage of people that have a permanent contract, that remains the same. We do see some small changes with the freelancers and the interns. So there are a bit more freelancers, a bit less interns in 2024 compared to last year. But if we now look at the complete pool of studios that participate in our study, so all 78 studios, which includes everyone that had a prototype grant and so didn't even finish a first game, it changes a bit. They have 63% of permanent hires and actually many more freelancers, 21% of freelancers. And that's understandable. We can understand why, because those companies or small companies are working on the first game, they don't have people yet, they can't hire people yet, so they need to rely on freelancer-specific skill sets at that moment. So that's why we see more freelancers. What is their gender? Also an important question, because we always think about the video game industry as a male, very male-visible setting. Good news, diversity is coming. So in 2023, if we compare 2022 with 2024, we actually see more women, more non-binary people, less other genders, actually. It went from 0.3% to 0%, but the non-binary scale was growing, so that's good. And if we look at all those prototype companies as well, we add them to the pool, things even move more forward. 22% of the employees in our Flemish video games industry are women, 2% are non-binary. So that's growth. That is good news. We are getting more diverse. We also ask for other elements in diversity. For example, do you have employees with a specific disability? And that includes neurodiversity. So in 2023, it was 1.4% of all employees. What happened there? And even if we look at all the prototype companies, it's even higher. I don't know if they didn't want to tell us last year or if they specifically hired more people, but that's growth, right? And the same for people with a migration background. We actually doubled there as well. So that's also good news. The studios are getting more diverse, more, there's many more insights, many more ways of looking at things, so that's great news. Also, we looked at the schools, and we noticed that the percentage of female first-year Belgian students was actually higher than the percentage of the female graduates. So that means that the new students who start, there are more female students than the ones that have graduated. But on the other hand, those figures are a bit lower than last year. So there's always some changes there. It's something we need to look at on the long term, of course. I have many more charts, and I won't bore you with everything. Like, I have this company size compared to the turnover sorry, I'm losing my thread. So we have the charts on the company size and the company age compared to the turnover they generated. So these are size, these are the ages. Generally speaking, yes, smaller and younger companies have lower revenues, and older and larger companies. 71% of the studios that have maximum 5 FTE represent only 24% of the revenue. That's understandable. If you are smaller, usually, or in the beginning of your career, you're starting to grow, you hire more people, the studio gets older, you get more mature, and then, yeah, if you can survive for at least 10 years, I think it's normal that you actually also have more revenue. We also checked the revenue by work for hire. So we compared how do the studios earn their income. And so all the studios that are maximum 1 year old, over 50% of their income comes from work for hire. Then for the studios between 1 and 5 years old, it drops down for 43%. Then 5 to 10 years, it's 30.6%. And for studios older than 10 years, it's 4%. So we actually see that the studios who are able to get at that point of 10 years, that they actually succeed, and that they don't need to rely on external income anymore, that they just can use their own profits of their video games. And of course, other capital. We also looked at more specific information, like women in the sector. The average was 21.7%. This was last year, and this is this year. Growth, cool. Migration background. Why is that bar missing? It's not missing. Oh, there it is. This is this year. And people with disabilities, including neurodiversity. This is sad. Thank God it's fixed. So this is all good news, basically. Look, in terms of employees with migration background disabilities, we noticed that the gap is actually bridged in larger and older studios. Last year was much lower. Now the gap is bridged. And we also noticed that people, they tend to found their own businesses. They found their own studios, which is also good news. People with a migration background, people with a disability, and women actually find ways to create their own studio and to move forward with it, which is great news. To end the presentation, we also did a thematic survey. We asked a lot of questions to everyone to see, okay, what's your opinion on this? All the data in the past were all numbers. This was text. So as every good researcher, I asked ChatGPT to make a summary. And so these are 4 teams. I have like 25 conclusions. I summarized it to 12 in the end, and I have 6 for you that I wanted to present. And the first one is a quarter of the younger studios, so studios less than 5 years, they don't or rarely communicate with their audiences, with the outside world. In their opinion, they don't have enough to show. They might be a bit scared even. They're scared that their game doesn't meet up to the standards that they have, which is interesting. Add them to the conversation, ask them questions. Let them help you grow, actually. That's my advice. Conclusion 2. 50% of younger and 41% of the older studios view salary costs as their greatest challenge. They are afraid that they can't pay their employees. Even 41% of the older studios. That's scary. 11.5% of the studios expect a decline in 5 years, and 6.4% expect to have to shut down. That's also scary. After all the good news I gave, growth, yay, that's a scary one. But, okay, more than half of the studios, however, they expect to grow, and a third expects to remain stable. Most studios indicate that the diversity and inclusion means to hire employees based on skill set and not based on gender, sexuality, religion, or background. They understand. That's good news. But older studios indicate that in reality, the candidates are still not diverse enough. They can't find those profiles they are looking for. And not everyone is looking for those profiles. Some studios believe that they should only look for diversity when they need diversity. We can discuss about that. And a final conclusion, almost everyone is asking for a better financial climate in Flanders for entrepreneurs. And they refer to a high salary cost, they refer to tax breaks, financial incentives to actually make the industry grow. So yeah, that's advice for the politics. If you want a full report, it's available in English and in Dutch on our website, full with charts, full with numbers. Please read it. I spent a lot of time writing it, so please read it. Scan it. Come, scan. I don't see enough phones. Okay, thank you. That way we get more hits, that way I get more funding, hopefully, and my bosses will still like me. Anyway, that was my presentation. If you want to ask some questions, please be free. I have my email address there as well if you want to send some mails. So thank you.
Okay, does anybody have a question?
I don't need the microphone, but thank you. But thank you. I'm just wondering how you define migration background. And I'm wondering, like, according to the definitions, both for migration background and for disability, if that also impacted the level of the response.
Yeah, so for migration background, we added a definition ourselves based on the VSOC definition, which is an European definition, where we say everyone who was born outside the EU 15 or has at least one parent or two grandparents outside the EU 15.
Okay.
That's our definition of migration background. And for disability, we left it open. Any form of disability, self-defined or by the doctor. So we left it open. As long as the employer knows it. That's, of course, the trick, because it was the employer that had to fill it in.
Okay, yeah.
I can also do that. I'd like to tag on to her thing. Has there been a change in question methodology or like survey construction between the 2 years, or have they been stagnant?
They have been stable. We didn't change anything.
Is the aim to do longitudinal analysis?
Every year, until they hate me, but every year. We're actually working together with Flega as well to like combine the surveys to make sure that there are less surveys instead of more surveys. So that's something we want to do as well.
Do you see a big difference in what type of games are made in younger companies and bigger companies?
I haven't analyzed that, to be fair, but it's a very good question, and I will write it down because now I want to know it. Yes.
Do you see women in specific tasks within those organizations, or
That's a good question. We do a separate analysis based on everyone who asks for a grant at VAF, and there they need to define the specific genders of the key tasks, like art director, game director. And there we see not that much growth, actually. So at this moment, we see that the employees themselves get more diverse. So in the let's say, lower profiles, but in the higher key profiles, we don't see that growth yet, except they start creating their own studios. So we expect in a few years, we expect growth there. So that's good news, at least.
Are you doing anything specific to promote that? Saying, okay, now we only grants for, or specific grants for women-owned companies?
We are collecting data to see what we can do on that end. Like for film, we started like an impulse grant where you can where you receive a extra amount of money when you can prove that you have women in specific roles. We are analyzing what we can do for games as well, but it is a very touchy subject, of course. So we need to see what is going to happen. But that's why we collect the data.
I have a question here. Hi.
Hi.
I'm from Rotterdam, the Netherlands, so I was very much interested. You said 138 studios, companies. Are they also like in co-pro with Dutch?
There are some working together, like Curiosmos, for example, is a co-production with a company here in the Netherlands. So yeah, we are stimulating that actually.
Just one very quick question. Thank you, Matthew, also for the talk. You mentioned, and this was also brought up a bit earlier in the roundtable discussion about diversity, that in terms of recruitment, you're hearing that it's for some studios and developers difficult, or they find it difficult to find diverse talent. In terms of like looking strategically in the right places or putting more efforts toward that, is there anything that VOF is recommending to studios or any places in which to do like websites or things, recruitment routes that you would recommend?
Yeah, it's something that we are checking into at the moment. So we did a panel discussion ourselves a few weeks ago where we talked about discussion. Ali was also one of the participants, actually. There was a lot of discussion. I received a report now, I'm analyzing it, and we're trying to see if we have any recommendations. Where can you find diverse profiles? How do you contact them, for example? I personally think that when studios say we can't find them, I don't think they are looking. And that's a conclusion we hear a lot, actually. So we are trying to see if we can put any recommendations there.
Any last questions?
I'm always, why is Brussels taken into account for the Flanders Fund, but Wallonia is not?
Because we are the Flemish Audiovisual Fund, and we give grants to Dutch-speaking companies.
Not French-speaking companies in Brussels?
No, they need to have at least, for the key profiles, they need to have at least 2 of the 4 Dutch-speaking. Yeah. And for the results, I also looked at the studios that actually comply to those rules. I want to do a broader study, though.
I think that's it. Thank you very much, Matthew Deboysere.
Thank you.